In 1987, Yamaha opened a multi-million-dollar concert facility right next to Carnegie Hall to destroy Steinway's monopoly once and for all. 5 years later, it was gone. But here's the thing nobody tells you. That so-called failure was actually the beginning of something Steinway never saw coming. Welcome to Living Pianos. Robert Estrin here with one of the most fascinating corporate battles in the history of classical music. Yamaha versus Steinway. Now, if you've heard the story before, you probably know the headline. Yamaha tried to take on Steinway, spent a fortune, failed and went home. And that headline is technically true, but it's only half the story because Yamaha didn't fail. They just won in a way nobody was watching. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what happened and what it tells us about the real forces that control the concert piano world. Let's go back to April 1987. Yamaha opens the Yamaha Communication Center, the YCC, on West 57th Street in Manhattan. And if you know New York, this is not just any address. This is right next to the Russian Tea Room, a stone's throw from Carnegie Hall, and directly down the street from Steinway Hall itself. This was a deliberate provocation. Yamaha wasn't tiptoeing around the edges of the concert market. They were walking right up to Steinway's front door and knocking. The facility was extraordinary. A sleek showroom displaying Yamaha pianos, synthesizers, and wind instruments. A full performance space, a real stage hosting classical recitals, jazz concerts, master classes, and press events. A custom workshop where top touring artists could get adjustments, record and test prototypes. This was Yamaha saying, we are a serious concert piano company. Come in here for yourself. And their pianos? The CF3 Concert Grand was a genuinely world-class instrument. Yamaha had been developing concert grand research since 1953, prototypes by 1962, public debut of the CF line at Frankfurt in 1967. By 1987, this was a mature, refined 9-foot concert grand, not a keyboard, not a digital piano, a true concert instrument built to compete at the highest level. So what went wrong? In 1992, just 5 years later, the YCC was closed. The overhead on a multi-floor luxury showroom on one of the most expensive streets in New York City was, to put it simply, astronomical. Retail sales couldn't come close to covering the operating costs. And despite the concerts, despite the events, despite the world-class instruments, the classical music establishment in New York simply didn't switch. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because the easy explanation is Steinway just makes better pianos. And I'm here to tell you that is not the whole story. I've had the opportunity to play many extraordinary Yamaha concert grands over the years. The CF3, the later CFX, these are magnificent instruments, consistent, powerful, beautifully crafted. And that word, consistent, is actually the key to understanding everything. You see, Steinway has what I would call a selection culture. When a major artist plays Steinway, they don't just take any Steinway. They go to the selection room, they play multiple instruments, they choose their Steinway. Each piano has a personality, some brighter, some warmer, some with more power in the bass, and artists bond deeply with that individual instrument. Now, my father was a concert pianist, a Baldwin artist, and I remember him taking me to try Baldwins in the selection room with him before one of his New York recording sessions or his concerts, and the consistency was remarkable. Some pianos are voiced slightly brighter for concerto performances with orchestras, and others are more subdued, which were appropriate for chamber music. But these were subtle differences. You always knew what you were getting. But with Steinway, you were looking for something. You were finding better piano or a worse one and making a personal choice. There was a romance to that search. Yamaha's strength and their fundamental problem was that every concert grand was beautifully consistent. You always got the same exceptional Yamaha. And for many classical artists, That consistency felt clinical. It wasn't a Steinway story. It wasn't a search. It was just a very fine piano. Now, add to that something even harder to fight, a century of institutional inertia. Concert halls already had Steinways, Steinway technicians, Steinway donor expectations, and Steinway relationships written into their contracts. Conservatories trained on Steinways, critics expected Steinways. Audience associated Steinway with the concerto experience. This wasn't a piano competition, it was a cultural institution, and Yamaha had walked in a battle they couldn't win on 57th Street. So here's the thing nobody tells you about what happened next. Yamaha didn't give up. They completely changed their strategy. In 1995, they quietly moved their artist operations to a smaller, more focused office in Chelsea. No more luxury storefront, no more public showroom. They went private. They went deep. They focused entirely on the professional artist community, the pianists, teachers, managers, competition directors, and venue programmers who actually make decisions. And then in May 2004, they made their real move. Yamaha opened the Yamaha Artist Service Salon, YASI, at 689 Fifth Avenue in the historic Aeolian building. 15,000 square feet, 2 floors. But here's the critical difference from the YCC. This was not open to the public. This was a private sanctuary for professional musicians only. An acoustically isolated piano salon, practice studios, a stage, recording capability, and a technician workshop. And the programming was extraordinary. A 10-professor masterclass series, a 9-concert Beethoven Sonata series featuring 31 pianists, and Brahms and Schumann series. By 2006, they were drawing 6,000 visitors a year, 3 to 5 performances every week. And slowly, very slowly, the institutional placements followed. The Metropolitan Opera, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, Juilliard, a national fleet of roughly 350 pianos, including about 100 concert grands. And then, in 2010, the moment that changed the narrative entirely, Juliana Avdiva won the International Chopin Piano Competition on a Yamaha CFX. One of the most prestigious, most Steinway-associated competitions in the entire classical world, and she won it on a Yamaha. Now, did Yamaha replace Steinway as the default American concert piano? No. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think that was ever really possible. Steinway's cultural grip on the American concert stage is simply too deep. 150 years of mythology is not something you dismantle from a showroom on 57th Street. But did Yamaha create a legitimate, respected, institutionally embedded concert piano alternative where none existed before? Absolutely. And they did it by going backstage, building relationships, one artist at a time, while Steinway wasn't watching. By the way, if this is the kind of behind-the-scenes piano industry story that you love, the real business decisions, the competition politics, the history behind the instruments you play, this channel is exactly where you want to be. I'm Robert Estrin, and Living Pianos is your online piano resource. Hit subscribe and you'll get this kind of insider perspective every single week. So, what's the real lesson here? The piano world runs on more than acoustics. It runs on stories, relationships, institutions, and mythology. Steinway didn't dominate the concert stage purely because of their pianos, though those pianos are extraordinary. They dominated because of a century of carefully calculated brand mythology that went far deeper than any single instrument. And Yamaha's real genius was eventually recognizing that. They stopped trying to fight Steinway's mythology head on. They went to where musicians actually work, the practice rooms, the rehearsal halls, the competitions, and they built trust, one artist at a time. Next time you hear a world-class pianist perform on a Yamaha CFX, remember, that didn't happen by accident. That happened because of a strategy that started with what looked like a failure and ended with a quiet, decisive conquest. I'm Robert Estrin. I genuinely love to know, have you ever played a Yamaha concert grand? And how does it compare to your experience with Steinway? Leave in the comments here at livingpianos.com or on YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.